It's winning formula time on Vikings GamePlan. Wabi from Vikings.com, Ron Johnson, Vikings Game Day Live, and Randy Moss from NFL Network. Let me ask you this. You being the other Randy Moss, me being the other Paul Allen, how frequently have we gotten that during our lives?
A lot. I'm the OG, is what they like to call me in the locker room, right? The original Randy Moss. I'll go with that.
Well, in our worlds, there's only one Kirk Cousins, and guess what? He's on pace to throw for 5,500 yards. Randy, is that a good or a bad thing?
The obvious answer, without thinking about it, is that it would be a good thing because you want your quarterback to obviously, throw as effectively as possible. But when you dig down a little deeper, I think the way the Vikings play, it's not necessarily a good thing. I think the Vikings want to have more of a balanced offensive attack and not rely on Cousins to have to throw the ball as often as he's throwing it. And right now the Vikings are struggling mightily running the ball.
Oof. Yeah, and I think Randy's right. I mean, the Vikings have the fewest rushing attempts in the NFL and the most passing attempts in the NFL, so that's not good. But Cousins' production is good, and Ron, when you are on pace for 5,500 yards, that means you're doing something right through the air, and we've seen the Vikings late in games be able to move the ball down the field, particularly in Green Bay, so I like that.
There's two angles to this. There's only 9 quarterbacks that have thrown for over 5,000 yards in the season. You look at how many have been to a Super Bowl, 3. You look at how many missed the playoffs, 4. So it's up in the air. I think the big number for that, if you look at that, the run game, there are only 2,000-yard runners in that 5,000 yards, and both of those teams were pretty good. The takeaway is defense. How much time is he actually eaten up by the pass? I think if he's passing for that many yards and he's eating up the clock and the defense is not on the field because he's going 3 and out, or he's quick strike, not scoring but just a field goal, I think it's okay. But the defense has to pick up in order for that 5,500 to be okay.
You being former Big Ten, big-time game-changing receiver, the more passing yards, the better, right?
I'm selfish, yeah.
Right.
Oh, I'll take it definitely for me.
Yeah, that's
for a
great.
Team.
Yeah, of course you will.
Oh, no, but me, Thielen, and Diggs, we're happy right now.
And Cousins has been off the charts.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of completions, passing yardage, through 4 games, it's the most in Vikings history for any quarterback.
Yeah.
Right? And he's doing it despite the fact that he's had more pressured dropbacks than any quarterback in the NFL.
With the Vikings and the Eagles, Wabi, we begin with you. Better offense and why?
Well, I think the Eagles are still coming along here this season. Carson Wentz is working his way back. Alshon Jeffrey working his way back. So I think the Vikings are a more explosive and productive offense at this point in time. And I think it can get even better with Pat Elflein back and with Dalvin Cook getting healthy. So I think we're going to see a pretty impressive offensive display in this game against the Eagles, but I would side with the Vikings at least right now.
I'd say the Bills-Vikings offense, no, they're not better than the Eagles. But the Rams-Vikings offense, if you see the way they were going score for score, they were hitting big plays. Aldrick Robinson was a big piece of that puzzle now, maybe an outlet for Kirk Cousins. He doesn't have to rely on Diggs and Thielen anymore. That offense for sure is better than the Eagles. The one thing I love is we talked about Kirk Cousins not being a great red zone quarterback. 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions in the red zone, and only 1 sack. So he is efficient. He's getting rid of the ball, and his passer rating is over 100 in the red zone, which you can't deny how good he's played so far.
What do you think, Randy?
Quarterback play right now, I think Kirk Cousins, Carson Wentz is pretty much a wash. Offensive line, a big edge to the Eagles. Right?
Now,
Eagles have maybe the best offensive line in the NFL, certainly one of them.
I think it does. However, Wentz has been sacked 9 times the last 2 games.
I think what tips it, in my opinion, and I agree with Mike, in favor of the Vikings is, I think, as do a lot of people, obviously, that Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen are the best 1-2 receiving punch in the NFL. Alshon Jeffrey's been banged up a lot this year. He might not be 100%. So I think the Vikings would have a little bit of an edge offensively.
Yeah, and I think when you have great coverage and you're getting a ton of pressure on Cousins, which teams have been doing, and Diggs and Thielen are still as productive as they are, it tells you that the Vikings offense has an answer for a lot of things. And they're almost playing with one hand tied behind their back with no running game. So if they can get a little bit from the running game, I think they're even more dangerous.
A lot of offense so far in the winning formula. Why wouldn't it be? We have a former wide receiver and somebody named Randy Moss, but we need to focus on defense. Ron, we begin with you. With the Vikings either perceived or realistic defensive issues, What needs to be fixed like quickest?
Yeah, coverage. I mean, you look at Xavier Rhodes, he is not, we're not going to say he's a shell of himself, but if you watch a couple of those routes Robert Woods ran and Brandon Cooks, he looked out of position. I don't know if, and like Mike Zimmer said, he might have overcoached these guys so where they're overthinking everything and not just playing football. But in that coverage, we have to put Anthony Barr in there. He's been asked to cover a lot this year, and I think that has to change. You're going to have to bring that third safety in the game a little bit more because teams have exposed that Anthony Barr is not a great downfield. He's not an Eric Kendricks plays pretty decent coverage downfield. Anthony Barr is not that guy. And the Rams just figured out how to expose it.
When you look at last year, right? I mean, you can definitely make the case that Aaron Donald and Linval Joseph were the two best interior offensive linemen in the NFL. Joseph has not been as dominant the first 4 games of this year as he was last year. You look at the secondary, right? When Trey Waynes has been targeted, the passer rating for the opposing quarterback, 157.6. Perfect is 158.3.
Yeah.
Mackenzie Alexander's been targeted 10 times, 10 completions. So I think there's enough pain to be spread around. But what's encouraging to me, and I know this sounds a little bit funny, at NFL Network we use Pro Football Focus and Radar 360 as our analytical tools. If you look at Pro Football Focus and you look at the rating for each player, right? The scouting rating for each player through the first 4 games. You compare it to 2017, it's across the board. Literally every player on defense is graded lower in 2018 than they were for the full season in 2017. Now, we've all seen players that can have a drop-off in performance from one year to the next for various reasons, but to have an entire team drop off is so completely illogical that it leads me to believe that with so many good athletes and with Mike Zimmer calling the shots, they'll fix it.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I don't think the blame should go on Mike Zimmer here. But the buck does stop with him, and he mentioned overcoaching at one of his press conferences. If everyone cared as much as Coach Zimmer and everyone was as good as Coach Zimmer at their job, we wouldn't be having any problems. So the blame doesn't go to him, but the fact that what Randy is saying, that across the board there is a drop in performance, it tells me that with 1 or 2 appropriate tweaks at the right time by Mike Zimmer, it can be fixed.
I'll show you one. Mackenzie Alexander let Jimmy Graham go into the flat and then up. If you were playing backyard football and me and Randy were here, we said, I got Paul, you got Wabi. If they crisscross, I take Wabi, you take Paul.
Like a screen in basketball.
It's backyard football. Mackenzie Alexander was overthinking that concept. Jimmy went out, receiver came across, he's staring, and then looks at the quarterback. That's simple. Like he said, that's a simple Mike Zimmer fix. Just play football like you know it. 1 and 2, you talk it out. You guys figure it out. I think he's going to let the players play.
I agree with that.
Randy, great having you on the show.
Nice being here.
Randy Moss, NFL Network. And by the way, with the horses on NBC. Don't think the old racetrack announcer didn't remember that. Wabi, Vikings.com. Ron Johnson, Fox 9. I'm Paul Allen. That's Vikings Game Plan on behalf of the Vikings Entertainment Network. Thanks for watching.